Welcome to This Explainer. We are jumping right into a massive shift happening in human resources today. Look, the old qualification era, where your college degree was basically your golden ticket, is completely dead. In its place, we're seeing this intense focus on holistic skill sets. So today, we're going to decode something called competency management and uncover exactly why it is totally rewriting the rules on how companies hire, train, and promote. Picture this. Classic setup that organizations deal with every single day. You've got two graduates sitting in the lobby. On paper, they are completely identical. Same prestigious school, same classes, exact same academic qualifications. But once they actually start the job, totally different realities. Candidate A completely freezes the minute a software system updates or a project scope shifts. But candidate B, they pivot instantly, they communicate brilliantly with the rest of the team, they get creative, and they absolutely thrive. It really forces us to step back and ask, why do identical resumes get completely different results? If a shiny degree no longer guarantees success on the job, what actually is that hidden X factor setting the top performers apart from everyone else? To crack this code, here's our roadmap for today. First, we'll uncover the missing link. 2, we'll break down the DNA of competency. 3, we'll explore the different types. 4, we'll look at how companies map them. And 5, we'll peek into the digital HR future. Okay, section 1, the missing link. Let's figure out what a competency actually is. That hidden X factor we were just talking about, HR professionals call it competency. And the crucial thing to understand here is that a competency isn't just about the facts crammed in your head. It is your actual ability to apply your knowledge, your skills, and your behavior to successfully do a job. It's the difference between just memorizing the syntax of a coding language and actually writing that code while communicating roadblocks with your team, managing your own stress, and hitting a crazy deadline. It's all about real-world execution, not just classroom theory. Moving right along to section 2, the DNA of competency. Let's look at the 6 core elements. You can think of true competency like a complex recipe made of 6 distinct ingredients. First up, knowledge, the raw facts and theory. Second, skills, how you actually perform tasks through practice, like building a complex financial spreadsheet. Next, abilities, your natural capacities like spatial reasoning. But here's the kicker. It doesn't stop at hard skills. You also need attitudes. Are you actually willing to do the work? You need values like integrity guiding you when nobody's looking. And finally, behavior, how you treat a stressed out colleague on a random Tuesday afternoon. You could be a total genius on paper, but if your attitude is toxic, you simply lack the overall competency to succeed. Section 3 brings us to the types of competencies, or how organizations categorize all these traits. By bucketing these elements into specific categories, companies can define exactly what they need at every single level of the business. At the foundational level, you have technical competencies, job-specific stuff like programming in Python. Then you have behavioral competencies. These are the personal traits dictating how you show up, adaptability, active listening, that kind of thing. As you move up the ladder, managerial competencies kick in for supervisory roles. So we're talking delegation and conflict resolution. And finally, at the very top, leadership competencies become non-negotiable. This is where high emotional intelligence and the ability to drive a culture of innovation are needed to guide entire companies. All right, section 4, competency mapping. Let's talk about finding the gaps. So we know what competencies are, but how does HR actually turn this into a workable system? Well, they use a vital process called competency mapping. Think of this like an organizational X-ray. It's a highly systematic way to strategically find the hidden gaps between what a specific role desperately needs to succeed and what the employee sitting in that chair actually brings to the table. It completely cuts through the guesswork. Here's exactly how they pull off this audit. First, they pinpoint the job role. Next, they define the exact competencies required for that role. Third, they assess the employee currently holding the job. And fourth, they compare the two to spot any gaps. Now, step 5 is the magic one. They don't just fire the person, they build a targeted improvement plan to close those gaps. They actually want to invest in you. And finally, since tech and industries change so fast, they review and update the map regularly. It turns vague feelings about performance into highly actionable data. I know, mapping can almost sound like corporate surveillance, but identifying these gaps is actually a massive win-win. For you as an employee, it's basically a cheat sheet for your career. You get crystal clear expectations, better career planning, and you know exactly what you need to learn to snag that next promotion. And for the organization, The upside is huge. They get smarter recruitment, way higher productivity, and a much stronger pipeline of future leaders who are actually ready to step up. Now, to be fair, setting this whole system up is not exactly a walk in the park. One of the biggest headaches HR faces is objectively measuring behavior. I mean, it's easy to test if someone knows how to use an Excel pivot table, right? It's incredibly difficult to objectively measure a subjective trait like initiative without just asking a manager if they happen to like the person. Factor in natural human resistance to change, plus the reality that job requirements are shifting almost overnight, and maintaining this framework gets seriously complex.
Which leads us perfectly into Section 5, the digital HR future and the tools modern HR is using to keep up.
To overcome the chaos of rapid change and subjective bias, companies are leaning heavily on digital tech. We are talking about AI-based skill assessments that can evaluate capabilities instantly and far more fairly than a human could. Instead of waiting around for a biased annual review, an AI can flag a skill deficiency and just instantly queue up a course for you. Thanks to comprehensive learning management systems and advanced HR analytics, monitoring and developing talent has become vastly more efficient and personalized. Before we wrap this up, let's just do a super quick cheat sheet review of the terminology to lock it in. Competency management is the overarching system governing everything we've talked about. Competency mapping is the active process of hunting for those skill gaps. And the competency framework is the actual structured document itself, the blueprint describing exactly what every job in the building requires. There's a quote from our source material that really hits the nail on the head here. Leading organizations now recruit for skills and potential, not merely for academic qualifications. In a world that moves this fast, strict technical knowledge has a totally brutal expiration date. What you learned in college might literally be obsolete in 5 years. But behavioral competencies, adaptability, critical thinking, the willingness to learn, those are evergreen. Those are the traits that will keep you employed for a lifetime.
So I'm going to leave you with this to chew on as you navigate your own career. In a digital era where an AI can assess your skills and expose your gaps in real time, what hidden competencies do you need to start building today to make absolutely sure you are candidate B? Thanks for joining me on this explainer. Go figure out your gaps, build that skill set, and thrive out there.